Hello, fellow audio nerds. I'm Steph, and this is Major Hi-Fi. This past week, I made a video detailing my experience with the Hi-Fi Man HE1000 SE, and the majority of the comments on that video were about how insane the price for it is. And yeah, I totally agree. The price of some of the headphones these days is extremely high, and I see that same sort of comments all the time on my videos where it's like, someone will say, these look really cool, but they're $4,000. Like, no one can really afford that. So today I want to go into a little bit of detail on how these companies are setting their prices, and also how to make the decision for yourself to know if those headphones are worth the price for you. So yeah, what's the deal with audiophile prices? When a company decides to make a new product, their experience of making that product a reality can really differ depending on the size of the company, their location, their financial situation. And each step of the process in bringing that product to fruition can kind of add up to determine what the eventual price of that product will end up being to the end consumer. The first element that comes into play, and arguably the element that affects pricing the most, is research and development. Now, R&D is this sort of thing that a lot of times customers don't really have to think that much about, because once the product is to market, that part of the process is already finished. So a lot of times we don't really have to think about it that much. However, this part in the process can be really pricey and take a really long time to accomplish, and all of that sort of depends on both how long the company's been around, the previous work that they've done, as well as if they have someone on staff who's designing the headphone, or if they're sort of outsourcing this work to another company. For example, a company might send a headphone idea to a factory, and the factory will send them a test product. Now, the company then will listen to that, but it's not quite right. Doesn't have the sound signature they want. It doesn't have a few kind of details that they want. So they send it back to the factory with new instructions on how to make it better. And this process of sending it back and forth can go on for a really long time. And the more times this sort of goes back and forth, the more the headphone is actually a reflection of what the company wants to put out there. However, it's going to cost more and more money as time goes on. Not only that, but meanwhile, while this process is happening, the company still has to pay their bills, they have to pay their rent, they have to pay their employees, and at the end of the day, this process of R&D, while it will make the headphone better, it's not actively making the money yet. The look and shape of R&D can really vary a lot from company to company, and a lot of that, too, is determined based on, the varying strengths and weaknesses of individual employees at that company. And additionally, another thing that sort of is mixed in with R&D a little bit, but is slightly a different topic, is the materials used in making the headphone. And this is actually one of the things that can make a headphone look really cheap or make a headphone look really expensive, the materials that you use. And obviously, there's sort of a correlation between the price of these kinds of higher-end material and the price of the materials and how high quality they are to us as consumers. Once the company thinks the product is good and it's ready to sort of produce it so that it can be sold, next up is manufacturing. And sort of the general rule with manufacturing, it's interesting, because the more products that you produce, the more of an individual product that you want to make, the less the price per product is. So a huge company actually ends up paying less per product than a much smaller company who might not have as much money to produce as many products. As a result, with some of these smaller companies, you might end up getting less bang for your buck. Unless, of course, that company has such a unique and special design that it makes up for that sort of difference. In a lot of cases, that's what ends up happening with some of these smaller headphone companies. companies, because they'll create a product that's so special, so unique, that they can actually survive through and end up beating out and compete with these much larger companies that don't have to pay as much money and have a much stronger financial situation. Meanwhile, the company needs to spread the word about this product that they've created, and they do that through marketing. Now, there are different avenues for marketing, and they cost different amounts of money, obviously, I guess. And actually, it's pretty lucky these days, because it's a lot more cost-effective to market now through the internet than it ever has been before, via like TV or other kind of forms of advertisements. But the truth remains that through this entire process, the company still needs to pay their bills, they still need to pay their employees, and they need to get the word out. And underneath all of these sort of factors of pricing I've mentioned, there's also these other sort of operational costs: rent, utilities, website costs, fees for tabling at events like CanJam and other sort of electronics conventions. The point, I guess, that I'm trying to make, and the reality of it is, despite perhaps the low cost of the actual materials that it takes to build a headphone, they still need to, bump the price up in order to break even and be able to pay off this entire process of bringing the product to market. So what products, then, are worth paying for? The answer to this question is going to depend person to person. For example, there are some people out there that make a lot of money in their day jobs, and they have the ability to fully explore this hobby in a way that most of us never will be able to. They're less concerned with what is the greatest of all time headphone and more concerned with staying on top of what's new, being able to explore and really sort of dive into the newest products on the market. And I respect that wholeheartedly, because those types of people, those types of consumers, maybe you're one of them, you use your hard-earned money to really listen to music. And I think that's such a beautiful and special thing, as both a musician and audio engineer. So thank you for your interest there. For the majority of us, though, that's not really the reality. A lot of folks are actually just looking for one headphone that can do everything. One headphone that can take care of all of their sort of audiophile desires. And in that case, you're going to be sort of a different type of customer than the former. So how do you actually decide on a headphone? If you fall into this category, the first thing to do is to choose a budget, and obviously this is going to be determined based on your income, your lifestyle, all of that sort of stuff. But once you have sort of a range of prices that you want to try and fall within, at that point you can make a list of headphones that actually fall within that price. One sort of tip for doing this is to go to like a headphone store website, like web store, and sort of sort the list of headphones from greatest to least, or least to greatest, wherever your sort of like budget is falling within, and then just like look at all the headphones that exist in that category. Once you sort of have that list, you can do individual research on each one. So my personal opinion then, once I have this list of headphones, is I have three sort of criteria that I go through first to try and decide and narrow those headphones down. One is going to be overall sort of comfort of the headphone. The next is going to be that I make sure it's been on the market long enough so that I know that the durability is solid on it. And then lastly is going to be the sound signature, because if I want it to basically fit within this certain kind of sound signature that I personally really like, and that works with the majority of genres that I listen to. So for me, that ends up being sort of a neutral sound signature with a little bit of a bass bump for just some extra kind of oomph and fun. So at that point, if the list isn't narrowed down to one, I'll look at a few other factors. Maybe now your list is down to 2 or 3 headphones, and in that case, I'll look at a couple other things. One is the warranty If the headphone has a really good warranty, I'll definitely take that into consideration. Secondly is going to be just the overall, like, look of it. You know, does it look cool? For lack of, better things, I guess. And then thirdly, I'll sort of look at the company's overall sort of track record with headphones. If it's a company that sort of has, like, iffiness with headphones in the past, I'll probably stay away from buying those. But if it's a company that has been around for a longer amount of time and they've really proven themselves to make a quality product with little issues, then I'd rather go for that one. Overall, yeah, I totally agree. Audiophile prices are insane. But I guarantee that whatever budget you're looking to buy in, there are a number of products there for you. And in that case, look at those products. I think that a lot of times headphone companies will go sort of nuts with experimenting and exploring different sort of designs, partially to take care of their own, sort of creative curiosities. And if you're looking for a headphone that is just like one headphone, one size fits all, then don't go after those super obscure things. And a lot of times they're a lot more expensive too. Look within your range, and you'll definitely find something that you like. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. For more videos like this, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time.